Are you ready to save our kids? If children are the living messages that we send to a time that we will not see, Save Our Kids is an opportunity for you to be introduced to a few school and student helpers that will support each child's individual journey. If there is a space or a place to improve the lives of our children, we know a few families and business owners who have made it their business to answer the call for help and provide a solution to those quietly discussed challenges that impact our children and eventually us all. We could not just choose one kiddo to save, so we are asking for your help to reach more. Join Keeping Your Kids Safe as we identify some of the problems and share a few solutions that have been created just for you. Okay, there is something wrong with this one thing. There's this one section where it just hiccups, and I just don't get it. But it's good.
I thought it was the weather. I was like, uh-oh, here comes the storms.
No, it's this thing. There's this one hiccup. It sounds really nice when I create it everywhere else. And as soon as it hits this and goes live, it does this weird thing. But anyway, welcome back to Save Our Kids.
Welcome, welcome.
I'm so glad that I have some people that I can chat with. Getting ready to line them up. We're going to go ahead and bring them on in. We got lots to talk about this year. There's a lot of things that are going on that I think is very important. But, again, I always like to say thank you for spending your hour with me. And then thank you for all those who are going to spend their time with us as well. Comments and questions are always welcomed and encouraged. And we'll look forward to the conversation. So how you doing, Phil?
Outstanding, Tabitha. Thank you for having me. And thank you for coordinating this incredible podcast to get your message out, to serve and support parents and teachers. And really, this is the platform that's going to make a difference in some people's lives. So thank you, Tabitha.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're sometimes when you get out there and you start creating things or having ideas of what to do and, oh, is this going to land? And, oh, is this going to be right? Things like that. Then what happens is you do it and you're like, whoo, geez, that's great. How are you, Sindal? How are you doing? Thanks for coming.
It's not Sindal today. Come on now.
She's in there. She's
Where is she? Oh, in the comments. There she is. I see her now. I had it on private chat. Sorry. Hi, Sindal. It's good to see you.
I'm like, you're like, no, not today.
I mean, I'm flattered that you think I look that young, but no, not me.
It's all good. How you doing, Kristen?
I am good. Apparently, I'm not as rested as I thought I was. I just realized I was looking here and I'm like, I have 3 drinks. I have ginger ale and coffee and water.
All right.
I'm staying hydrated.
That means we're gonna have a stellar conversation today.
Yes.
That's what that means. All right, so you ready? So again, we always start with saying thank you. Thank you to those teachers, those paras, all those people who do what we cannot do or we're not in a position to do. They're able to teach, they're able to show, they're able to help us along the way when it comes to our children. So I want to say thank you. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. But for some of you other ones, let's talk. All right. Before we create anything to solve a problem, we first need to understand what we're solving for and who we need to solve it to help and support, right? So as we say, 49.4 million students in the fall of 2020 and 2021 go to school, K through 12, right? By the year 2031, they're projecting that number to reduce to 46.9. That's, first of all, we're going down. The numbers are going down. So what are we doing? So what's happening there?
Right. We're not losing kids. So why aren't they in school? Why aren't they back in school?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. The other thing is we always want to point out, Kristen, you used to be a teacher. So 4 million teachers, 4 million teachers across the United States, 55% of them want to quit as of 2023. We have discussed in various areas where the reason why they want to quit is not always financial. And a lot of people make it to be, oh, give them more money, they'll stay. Oh, give them more money, they'll stay. Money does not solve some of the problems that the teachers are experiencing. That is not the primary reason why they're leaving. Please stop using that as the catch-all because that is not 100% true. There are districts who are not paying their teachers properly. are not enough, but that is not the primary reason why they're leaving. And I'm going to share a couple other things, right? One of the reasons why, if you look at it, 37% not being able to read, which also includes your math score, because those two are together, is one of the reasons why we're having a struggle. And if you think about it, that has a drastic impact on what happens to us, what happens to those children later, right? So that's the difference between, we'll say, filling out an application, or completing a resume, or even doing some of the very simple jobs, right? Banking is another thing. So whether they keep their money, how they manage their money, how they engage in financial, trades, right? Those are things that are impacted by those. And let's be clear, if we look at the number and we say we're at 50, if 37% can't read, that's 13 million children. What are we doing, and why are we in that space where we are not able to teach those children what we need to? And because Phil's here, let's talk about this. 44% have reported that they suffer from depression. 37% report that they have anxiety. And between 40 and 60%, that is a lot of test anxiety. And I fall into that category. You wouldn't think I was very smart if you've seen the test that I had to that I had to take. But that's not what it is. It has everything to do with the amount of pressure and anxiety that exists there. But when you say, okay, Phil, 90% of students are sleep deprived, I want to impress upon people enough. Sleep deprived. You say, oh, well, they just need to go to bed early. No, let's try to stop overscheduling them, kids. Those children run from the time they wake up in the morning all the way until way past sometimes their bedtime. And just think about some of the things you sign them up for. We're talking about tutoring. First of all, school. School's primary, right? Then you have tutoring. Then you have extracurricular activities. Then you have these other things, family obligations. So if you take a look at the day, you're saying, okay, go to school from 7, we'll say, until 4. These are just general numbers. 7 to 4, and from 4 to 5, you're in tutoring. From 5 to 7, you're in your extracurricular sport or activity, and then 7 to 9, you're at home with family. But now you have to do 7 to 8. That's probably homework, and now you have 8 to 9.
It's only an hour
tomorrow. So therefore, now if you start to look down at the breakdown of time, you start to recognize that there's definitely a bigger problem in front of you. So that's why sleep deprived is probably one of those things that is happening for your students. Keep in mind, 180 school days, 1,260 hours per year, your children are with their second parent, your co-parenting partner, which means you are away from your children for 2,600 hours a year. And that means your children is being managed, impressed upon, encouraged, loved, respected, honored by another parent. So let's explain. Parent number 1, in my opinion, is home. That parent can be a one parent home or a 2-parent home. It doesn't matter. It's still parent number 1. And you go to parent number 2 being the school. The school is going to be there to help them where you're not able as a parent because you're working. They're going to educate. They're going to love. They're going to respect. They're going to feed our goals, right? So all the parent number 2. So now you have parent 1, parent 2. Now you have a co-parenting relationship you need to resolve. Now you have Kristen over there throwing stuff.
My light just fell off the computer. I'm sorry, guys. I'm in a hotel right now.
You're fine. I was like, oh, please don't put her in the head.
It's really lightweight, so I just caught it real quick.
Thank goodness. Bonus parent. Everybody, bonus parents is the community. At the end of the day, your community helps to shape your students, help to shape your children. If your little boy is peeing in the bushes, guess what? Somebody gonna tell on him, and they're gonna say, hey. If you need to use the restroom, come on in here. You can use the restroom, but you don't just be peeing all willy-nilly everywhere. And a lot of that is because that's the community. You can't be in all places. So together we have to figure out how we are going to parent and co-parent these children to 18 so then they can join the community and be participate in that as well. So after I've just given you that spill, how do you feel about the way I have structured how I see the world when it comes to children?
I think you're being conservative on the amount of time that they're being structured in their activities. I was just home visiting my niece and nephew last weekend, and we have soccer and basketball in the morning and then soccer at night because we play on 3 different teams between 2 kids, and it's only Saturday. And then Sunday we've got tutoring. And it's never stopped. It never stops. And it's just exhausting. I don't know how parents do it.
No, not at all.
Parents.
She's funny. Sandal, she says, drink more coffee.
No. I literally just took a nice big sip. So good timing.
It's all good. So, all right. So today we talk a little bit about, I want to make sure that people understand, because there's parents now that are here, and we want to make sure that we give them support and understanding as to what we encourage them to be able to do to help support their children. My recommendation, so I want to have those conversations today, because if we start with Houston ISD, I 100% am in agreement with them taking over that school district, because there were too many children that were failing out, and it was unacceptable. And it was the demographic what made it so much more egregious, right? So if you as a parent are not interested in that type of model that Houston ISD is starting to incorporate, which will allow the students to compete, and I don't mean compete in I got to be first. What I mean is being able to go out into our world and find a job and successfully be able to keep up with other people who are more educated or have been able to take on that education as part of them, right? We have to do something different. And advocacy seems to be that one thing that I don't think that parents really understand how to do it. And then two, the teachers also need to advocate for themselves, but they have to advocate in 2 directions, right? They have to advocate out to the parents. Hey, recommendation, encouragement, And then they have to advocate upwards in their employment, right? Because the ones that the principals and the teachers who work for the principals set the tone based on what is given to them. So when the principal turns to them and says, I need you to advocate, they're going to advocate out to the parents. But then the principal has to advocate upwards to the management. So I'm curious, because Kristen, you've been a teacher, and Phil, you work with a lot of parents. What are some of the things that parents need to know when it comes to advocacy that will help support them in what they're doing?
Okay, Kristen, you can go first if you like.
Sure. So working as an advocate, I'm now working on the parent side of things, but as a teacher, one of the things that I not only did, like Tabitha was saying, it was twofold because it goes both directions, but I'm also teaching students how to advocate for themselves. And then within that, trying to be an advocate for my own self. So there's so much of that component that, kids are not taught properly how to do that advocating. And I think if the younger we do that, the more kids understand the how and the why behind what we're asking of them. And a lot of times we just see a lot of behavioral and social emotional issues dissipate or start to dissolve because we're addressing those things up, at the forefront and proactively answering. So advocating, to me, that's like one of my favorite words, for sure. It's just, the more we can do it, everybody, the more anybody can advocate for themselves, the better off they're going to be.
Yeah, I think that's very important. But I think that Harvey, I love Harvey. Harvey is a former superintendent, and he says, yes, parents should advocate, but there has to be a way to advocate in a way that helps everyone, right? That it's not hurting or causing dissension between 2 groups of two people who need to work together for the betterment of that student, right? So what are some of the things as a teacher you would have liked to see or heard from your parents that would have helped you while they were working on improving the development of their child? Go ahead, Kristen. No, Kristen, you.
Yeah, that was a teacher question.
Okay, I'm sorry. Repeat it for me, because I only heard part of it, and that's my bad, because I was trying to make comments and answer people's questions.
This is funny. So as a teacher, what would you have liked to have seen or heard from a parent that would have helped you understand how we needed to advocate?
I think the biggest thing is the more, they can share about their child and I can understand the background. A lot of times there's things that parents don't think teachers need to know or don't want to share because they're embarrassed of them. But if the teacher had that knowledge, they may approach that child totally differently. And specifically, I'm thinking specifically of children that come from backgrounds with trauma. For example, perhaps there is, someone that adopted a child from another country and they don't know what that child may have been through the first 3 or 4 years of their life. That's important information for a teacher to know and have, because like I said, that approach is going to look a lot different. So that's one piece of it. But I also think another part of it goes back to the just pure honesty. Don't try and fluff them up or put them down more than you should. Be honest and be authentic. And the more we can be authentic with each other, the better off the kid's going to do in the long run.
It's true. It's very true. So authenticity is work, and as a parent, we should build up the confidence of that child, of that student. We need to build them up. The first thing you see, and I'll never forget this, I remember watching this and hearing her say that, and I paid attention to how I was responding to my children. When your child comes into the room, the first thing you should say to them is not your shoes untied, pull your pants up. What the heck are you doing?
What is that you're wearing?
The first thing you could say is this: I'm glad that you're here. I've been waiting for you. I love the fact that I love the fact that you took that initiative. Mm-hmm. Can you do me a favor though? Please pull up your pants.
Yes.
Yes. So when you respond to them coming in the room, you will help to bridge the one thing we complain about as parents. My children won't talk to me. Why won't they talk to me? Why would they if the first thing you say to them is something negative before you say a positive? And it's not saying that you're foregoing the negative. What you're saying is that I'm happy you're here. Let's in the moment, I love you. And now I need you to solve the problem I see behind you, right? That's it. You first, I love you. You second, I need you to solve this problem. And then that's also in education as well. Mm-hmm. I love this new thing that they have where they're doing this when they greet each student coming in the classroom with a different handshake.
Yeah.
Or they choose an affirmation or something, right?
I was doing that back in 2012. My kids said hello and goodbye every day in a different language, and we either handshake, hugged, or high-fived every single day, every kid. So I love that. It warms my heart when I see those stories on TV of the handshakes and the different things teachers do. Anything to build those relationships, because kids don't learn from people they don't like. That's the bottom line. They don't.
For the people in the back. Because that's what
kids don't learn from the people they don't like.
Exactly. So we need to be better about doing that. Okay, so Phil, now is your turn, because now you're going to tell us from a parent standpoint, what is it that you would like to see, because you're dealing with parents all the time. And so those parents, what do you want to see the parents say or ask you that's going to help support you in helping their students?
So thank you, Tabitha, for the question. And I see that Edward Gordon is a principal here, and he's made a great comment. And I will share with you, imagine a place at school where the conversations that we're having is already set up. There's a culture to support the student, to support the teachers, to support the principal, to support the parents. That leadership comes from the administration, as well as the parents buying into how important this is as a community to have an incredible impact on our youth. And so it starts in the middle school and the high school, where that co-parenting concept that you share is only short, limited time. It's 40 minutes. It's not like elementary school, where that teacher is almost like the co-parent for 8 hours, 7 hours with your student and with multiple students. And they only have 25 the entire year, 30 the entire year. In the world of middle school and high school, they've got 200 kids and they only have them for 40 minutes. They're not going to get the attention that they absolutely need. So what is it from a parent advocate perspective? It's to address the gap. It's to have more mentors and family members supporting your son or daughter, to have them be able to go to them to share and inquire about where they are from a well-being perspective, from an academic perspective. They've got to engage the students, improve their communication skills. And so back to the parents' advocacy. So parents, if you're listening, you tell your kids, don't talk to strangers. So what I say to you is, have them talk to people you know, as many as they know, because they're going to get incredible advice and support, especially if you have friends who care about your kids and would be engaged in talking to them, and or you're paying coaches to mentor your kids with incredible, valuable knowledge and great lessons to be learned. So that's the parent advocate perspective from a support system to build. Surround your kid with experts and surround yourself with experts. Tabitha just provided incredible parent tip to acknowledge your kid, to tell them that you love them before you give them the entire list and scolding them in all the things that they're doing wrong. So that's the easy thing to do because you guys live together and you already know each other. You don't have to introduce yourself, but it's definitely a more supportive environment would be better. And then they get a taste of it. Instead of, and then, when they're 16, they're 17, they stop listening to the adults, they stop listening to the parents. But if you set them up early where they're engaged in conversation with adults, you're going to see the maturity level increase so much. You're going to see them be more responsible adults. They're going to be more independent because right now they're going to their friends. Their friends are providing unbelievable advice of things that you probably don't want them to give the advice for, and to share with them knowledge that you may not want them to have and or guide them. And now they're counting on their friends. So you've got to get ahead of this. And this is a lot of proactivity. All right. So from a parenting perspective, from a school perspective, if you have a culture in your school that you're able to have them care about the other students, caring about other students is an incredible culture that it absolutely needed, because that's where the trauma and the issues come from. All the bullying, all the pressure, it's just incredible. But you got to turn that around. And you can turn that around when you have goals that are aligned with the kids' goals. And the dropping out rate is dropping out, is getting worse. The kids are less engaged. So we've got to the parents got to support this too. How can we create an environment where the kids are anxious to go to school, see their supportive friends, love what they're doing there, right? That's a challenge for teachers, right? Because and teachers, you do the same thing over and over again. And the question for you is, do you know how many kids are engaged? Of course you do. The question is, how can you overcome that challenge? Well, it's with other people who are experts in the area of entertaining kids. You've got to make it more entertaining because you're competing against cell phones. And so this is not easy. And this is another reason for the sleep deprivation, is that they're on their phones at 2 a.m, 3 a.m. Got to be connected. And this is better than sleeping. But oh my goodness, they don't know the impacts of not sleeping down the road. And of course, they don't see the consequences. So that's why you want to surround yourself with adults. And I know I've gone on this long rant, but another important thing for schools to know, you don't have a human resource department. So all corporations have human resources department because they're thinking about the employees. Who's thinking about the students and the teachers to support them in all the ways that they need? If you were to assess what are the needs of your students, what are the needs of your teachers, and you say, this doesn't have to fall on me, you could advocate for parents to provide that support to the students and to the teachers to address their goals as a community. Because if we care about the teacher dropout rate and we want to reduce it, let the parents, you can absolutely support the teachers. But are you having those conversations? No. That's what's wrong. It's the open communication of what your problems, what the issues are, and work together as a team and demonstrate to kids. This is how you work together. This is how we address challenges. This is how innovation happens. Thank you, Tabitha, for that. I think I spoke for 10 minutes.
I love it. I'm
good. Round of applause.
Yes,
Round of
I
applause.
agree.
Okay,
Ditto.
so let's talk about this a little bit. So I'm excited. Okay, so thank you, Phil, because that is definitely what we needed to get jumpstart all of this in a way that's going to be very, very good, right? So here's the thing. Funny you say HR department, because I recognized that as I was going through this process, that the schools that did not have a diversity and inclusion department, I was struggling more to talk to the people, and all they kept seeing was, I don't want to do work with you, but they would never reveal why. So whatever. Okay. But then now I have HR department on top of that. I didn't think about the HR side of it. I assumed, which is a horrible thing to do, I assumed that that they had an HR department as well, because it would only make sense, right? But clearly that's not the case. And that is actually right in line with what me and Kristen were talking about before. That says, the money isn't it, but you have to be, they need the support and things like that. So that's one thing I wanted to say. The other thing I wanted to make sure I said was, let me give an example. This is really good conversation. Thank you so much, Edward, because that actually helped us tremendously. And it's going to be extremely helpful for a lot of parents who see this, and even educators, right? So Let me give my example. The reason why advocacy is so important is because I have a child that I had to advocate for. And when he was younger, we moved into back home, and we went into we had to do testing. We went into a school district, and they took his paperwork and said, we're going to place him here. And it was in a school set up K through 12 life skills school, an entire life skills school. And then I remember having a conversation, and I was like, first I was fine. I was like, okay, if this is where they say he's going to go, I'm going to follow the lead of those who know more than I do when it comes to education. So I followed, and I did what they asked me to do. And I kept showing up at the school, and I kept noticing things. And then my kid started regressing. Okay. Now he's ASD, but he kept regressing. And I was like, pause, we're not doing this. I just got his speech back. There's no way I'm going back into the world of silence when it comes to a child. And so I said, hey, I need him moved out of here. This is not the right placement. So they did another evaluation, and the psychologist said, yes, you're correct. He is in the wrong placement. We're going to go ahead and have him moved. Do you know that the board of education for that district dug their heels in so deep and would not let my kid go? I'm saying they would not remove him from that school. It was the most heart-wrenching thing I had ever experienced up to that point, because clearly we had some few other things coming in and lurking in the mix coming up. But I fought and I cried, and I fought and I cried. So for all those parents who feel like you have no options, I'm here to tell you, you are the option. There is no other option but you. If you do not fight for your child, no one will fight for your child. It just doesn't work. So I'm going to say, it was a whole entire week of meetings, or what they consider like that board meeting, where we just sit there and I was all by myself. I'm a single parent. I was all by myself, and I'm sitting there fighting. I will never forget this guy. He was this big, burly, white hair, stoic face, refused to, no smile, no nothing. And all the people were around there. And I was like, you have to remove him. He doesn't belong there. I'm losing space. I'm losing time. Don't do this. And he said, no, he's in the right placement. And they fought me for 4 hours. And then we go home. I get in bed fully clothed. I ain't gonna lie, fully clothed. It was wintertime, so I laid in the bed and just cried, because I was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Went back my mom, she's like, how did it go? I was like, this is terrible. Who does this? Why are we doing this? And she's like, cry today, because tomorrow you have to go and do it again. Yeah. And I had to get up. And for 4 days straight, I had to face this man who was unforgiving and refused to listen to me as a parent. I won. I am the option. I was the option. I will continue to be the option. I was the voice that he needed to hear. And I was the support that my son needed. I won. Not only did he get moved out into another school, we ended up shortly thereafter moving to Texas. And they had to pay for the gap they created in his education.
Yep.
So I just want to say, when I say to you, you are the option. We have options. Parents, stop sitting by just waiting and saying, oh, they know what's best. No, you live with them.
Right.
They don't live with them. You get to see them fall apart because stuff ain't right. They don't get to see that. So get your stuff together. If you don't know how, give us a call. We will help you. Phil has a whole entire group, Helpopedia. You want some help? Go find one of us. We'll get with you, Helpopedia. You need an advocate and an ally? Contact Kristen. She'll get in there and hang out with you. You want somebody who's going to help lead you in the right way? DM Harvey Hazen, Edward Gordon. Hey, go ahead, send these messages out to those people. They will happily help you overcome this stuff. But you do not have to sit in this mess and believe that there are no other options just because they say. You know why you're the option? Is your taxpayer dollars that are paying that salary and putting that building in place. So you have got to make a decision. When you don't do your job at work, what happens to you? So if they don't do their job with your children, you need to get with them and have a conversation and advocate for your child. So let it not be mistaken. I understand because I have walked this path and I have won on the other side of that. So let's go.
Yes. I just want to add to what you're saying there. You're absolutely right. I'm currently helping a parent who requested a meeting 7.5 months prior to my getting involved. And she kept getting told, oh, we'll meet later. And her voice was not being heard. All it took was a letter from me saying advocate at the end. And 6 days later, we were at the table having that meeting. And it should not be that way. I don't have that kind of power. I'm not Superwoman. However, it's, something that is happening all too often. And too many families are being told, oh, yeah, we'll meet later. Oh, yeah, no problem. Sindel brought up a really good question. She said, what do you think the main reason is for the interruption of communication between parents, teachers, and administrators? I don't know how you timed that in terms of knowing you read my mind there, Tabitha, but that question is great. I think as an educator, the way I interpret the problem is I think the interruption is lack of time. It's lack of knowledge and lack of awareness. I think teachers don't have the time and a lot of times don't necessarily have the knowledge of what they need to be telling you because they may be content focused. A math teacher teaches math. And a lot of times people forget that. Yes, teachers and the job of education has changed drastically, especially I had 23 years in public education and it changed so much in that time period. However, that doesn't mean that we don't have to consider where people are. Educators, we hope that they are right at the beginning and proactive and able to, be doing things the best for each kid and, best for their social emotional needs. But a lot of teachers don't necessarily think that that's part of their job. That's what counselors are for. And there's a lot of, hats that are worn. And so therefore, a lot of times people, teachers would come to me as a specialist and say, I'm having problems with so-and-so in my class. And I would say, okay, well, what did his mom say when you called? And the teacher would look at me like I had 3 heads and say, I don't have time to call. I'm like, well, there's your problem. Solved. You just let that kid know you don't have time for him. So pick up the phone and call the parent and see that change. The other part is time on the parent side. They're busy. They don't understand. They don't know what they don't know. And so a lot of times it's lack of knowledge and lack of awareness, like I said, but that time component takes so much away. If parents had more time in their schedule, I think it would make a big difference.
So,
Go ahead,
so
Phil.
yeah. So the teachers, there was some sort of change where the parents were all defending their kids and they could do no wrong. And I don't know why that happened,
Yeah.
but that was such an impact on teachers. Now, who wants to talk to the parents?
Right.
And who wants to talk? I mean, it's like someone built that wall. And now for the teacher to break down that wall and be more collaborative with the parents, it's I think what you said in the initial stage, and then the principal brought it up. When there's a transition period between one school and another school, whether you're a new student or you're all new students, there's got to be an assembly to talk about the open communications between parents and students and teachers, encourage that and foster it, and then also follow up on it, because it's going to pay dividends every single time. The more you know and understand the child's challenges and needs, the more you can address them. And you don't have to take this responsibility on your own. You could direct them to professionals to support the challenges and trauma and all the issues associated with school. That has nothing to do with math, has nothing to do with science, has nothing to do with all the teaching that you're doing. You don't have to take on that huge responsibility of raising these kids when you're in middle school, high school, but you've got to address the problem. You've got to acknowledge the problem. You got to collaborate with teachers. And just like Tabitha, I feel so bad that the teacher, the school system didn't have a collaborative effort to make this big decision. And it just fell on your shoulders to fight on the other perspective that they didn't have before. And so as an analyst, you want to collect all the information to make an informed decision. And they did not have 4 days of you providing that intel, and yet they made the decision. And so this is, so I don't know if they're teaching decision-making classes for the teacher, and principals, right? There's no decision-making class in high school, so they didn't get that information. So it's about objective data and understanding where they are. And what Kristen mentioned before, it's transparency. Can we all please be transparent with each other? Our kids aren't perfect. We're not perfect. We didn't go to Parent 101. It wasn't required in high school. So we're doing our best, but let's work together. Let's be open-minded. Let's hear the challenges and issues, the behavior issues, because it's impacting our kids across the entire system. And we're not helping solve these problems. And that's why we're here too. Thank you.
That it right there, because that's the stuff that bothers me. And I'm going to say, teachers call me, I have two children. One, they don't know me by the first one. They only know me by the second one. The first one going to school, she just moves around, does whatever she's supposed to do, and no problem. Second one, there was always something going on. They're not bad. There was just always something going on. And I remember them calling, they call me, and I'm just like, they're, oh, Mom. And I'm like, yes. And they're like, well, I have to, and I was like, oh my gosh, stop doing that. He is not an angel. He is probably doing what you said he's doing. Please just spit it out so we can solve the problem. I wish. I was like, what are we doing? I don't get this part. Out of my sight, that kid does whatever he wants to do. My daughter's the same way. Out of sight. They do whatever they want to do. You know why? Because they're whole entire people to themselves. They have their own minds and thoughts and desires. And that does not always align with us. So just because we say, be nice to others, only speak when spoken to, and don't say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. They do everything opposite of that.
Right.
So why are we thinking that they're going to go to school and they're going to listen to somebody who's in front of the classroom? They're not going to do it. It just doesn't exist. And Phil, to your point, when you say, what happened? At the end of the day, the same thing that's happening as adults is happening as children. So that bias that happens for adults, oh, they had to be this, or oh, they had to be that, is in the schools too, right? So the bias as an adult goes in, that if a teacher is already have a bias of their own, they march to that bias as an adult. When they go into the classroom, that bias is still there and exists, right? And so my thought and understanding of that potentially will be that the same bias that we see elsewhere, we will see in a classroom. And therefore now you then begin to charge children with things they didn't do. And when you start charging a bunch of children with things they didn't do and they can do no right instead of doing no wrong, that is one of the reasons I think that pivot happened for a lot of parents saying, it's not my child. It's not my child. It's because a bunch of people over a period of time made it the child's fault for all things them and not taking responsibility for their participation in the response that the child has given. Let me say this again. And I was a product of that. My mouth will get me in trouble any day of the week. I will promise you that. My mom has said that all day. But what happened was that they would say, Tabitha did this. Tabitha did this. And my mom would come to me and I was like, oh, here we go. Right? Oh, here we go. And she says, why? And I was like, because they did this. And she said, okay. And I was like, no one, and we were just talking about that not too long ago.
Yep.
No one ever accepted responsibility for tipping the scale.
Right.
They only screamed foul because the outcome was not one that they were willing to receive. Right. Same for us. If I slap a kid, the next time when I become incapacitated and in a place where I'm relying on them and they walk up to me and slap me, guess what? That's what I taught them was acceptable to do. Right. So we have to be better about doing this. So I'm going to get to some of these comments because Christine, we must advocate for our children. I agree with Edward Gorton. Parents must let the school know to support their children. Schools can't be blindsided. Schools are willing to help if they know how to support your children. Okay. I'm okay up to a certain point with that one. I'm with you, Christine. I am all the way up to a certain point. Not all teachers, not all principals, not all advocates are going to support you.
Right.
So even though I said, this is what my situation is for my children, because I was in other states when this was going on, this is what's happening. We don't care about that. And they would move it to the side. But then when it came out and everything blew up, it was, oh my gosh. And I was like, well,
I tried.
We had this conversation and you chose not to listen. So how do parents overcome that? Because that happens a lot in general. So Christine's not here. So both of you on both sides of the point of view can answer that question. How do we overcome when you give them the information and then co-parent number 2 says, we don't care, because this mess isn't real. This is real life, right? If you're married, you get split. Now you got mom and dad. Dad does things you don't like. Mom does things the other one does. And so now there's a fight. So we have the same situation. Home says no go. School says yes way. How do you solve that? What do we need to do as parents to overcome that? That's just nuts.
I don't know that I have the answer to that, but one thing that just popped into my head as you were talking about it, and this goes back to what Phil was saying of things have really changed. It's gone from picking the phone up and calling and a parent listening to you to one of the very last parent phone calls I made as an educator. I was calling as the behavior interventionist. So for me to be involved, this was beyond the teacher at this point. And I had this very nice mother who listened to everything I had to say about her son. He was bullying another child. I had gone in and observed. I had been working with him, and it just was relentless bullying. And she listened to my whole thing. And at the very end, she said, well, thank you, ma'am, but I'll have to see what my son says when he gets home, and then I'll decide who I believe. And I thought, that's our problem. That's why we are having problems, because now you've set it up as though it's my side, your side. And that's not what this is. Parent needs to be the bridge there. And, Christine and I actually are working together on creating that movement of bridging that educational gap between home and school, because we need to be working together and not against one another.
That's a good point. We do really need to start working together. Okay, Phil, so what's your take on it?
So, Kristen, it's just generally people are in defensive. I mean, they put their defenses up. So one proposed option was, if there was anything good that the kid did any sort of improvement. If you would have planted those seeds, I could have been a different conversation. Maybe not. It still could have been the wall. As soon as you picked up the phone, it was a losing battle that she was going to get his side or to see. And questioning your belief. I mean, parents, who wants to make this up?
Well, and then what message does that send to the child? You don't have to believe what that teacher says.
Does the teacher get their kicks by making things up?
Yeah, this is crazy.
And of course, he came to school the next day gloating, like he knew exactly what had happened. And he knew, and it just set me up then the rest of the year that, he wasn't going to listen to anything I said because he knew mom wasn't going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, go ahead, call.
I used to say that all the time. Call my grandmother, not my mother. She's at work.
I always called whoever the kid said don't call because that's who they didn't want you talking to.
She couldn't answer the phone. I'm telling you. I already knew. I knew exactly where she was. I knew how she worked. I was like, call my grandmother because she'll call and you'll get her and my mom will call you right back. Right. And I gave them their direct line because here I am up to shenanigans all day long, any day of the week. And I was like, just do this. I said, follow these steps and you will reach her. And I was like, my mom was like, what exactly is going on in your brain? A whole lot, but let's not discuss that.
So Tabitha, I want to answer your question about the support thing. So if a parent just presents all the challenges and issues that their son or daughter is having, and you mentioned the expectation should not be that the school is going to address all of these things, correct? And that's totally fair, by the way. So look at the scope of work that the school's responsible for. They can't be responsible to do all the things that a parent does. So that's just not feasible. The situation should be when they're presenting their issues and challenges, it's good information for the school to know. And what specifically should be asked is, are you able to support any of these items that I've just shared with you? If so, how? Give me the details of situations that kids have been in and what did you do? Because I'd love to proactively get in front of that instead of dumping all these problems on you and or sharing all the challenges that I'm facing as a single parent, as a parent. But these are the open conversations. And the question is, does the school have time and an operations in process to address all of these discussions and challenges with each parent? Because that is an unbelievable resource. Imagine if you opened up the Nile and said, tell us all tell us all the issues and challenges. By the way, would be very effective if they had surveys that and shared with what is the temperature of the school? What's the temperature of the students? What are the biggest challenges and issues? Because again, you don't have to solve these problems, but can you please find out and understand what the root cause of these issues are? Because it's having a huge impact on students and parents and teachers, and you can delegate that to the community to help support you. If you were willing to share and be open, here's the problems that we're facing. We're asking for help. Oh my goodness, now you are the role model of role models to say, oh, the kid is okay to ask for help. The principal is okay to ask for help. The superintendent is asking for help. My goodness, now everyone gets it. And now people are going to be supportive and help because you're asking for help. And most people do not just wave that and with arrogance. Oh, you guys figure it out. No. You're going to get people who really care about our kids, who really care about you, and they will make a difference like us.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that a lot of times, I know parents, I don't know, they get apprehensive about things, and I don't like the fact we're pitting against one another. At the end of the day, the bottom line comes down to it's money. Yes, it is money. Like I don't know
together the money. Yep,
just money. Look, I don't have a problem with it. At the end of the day, that's what it looks like when you can get. Okay, look, the state has historically received $700 million under the program. When you can receive that type of money, it's about money. I don't know if you're playing with other people's money or whatever. School is not about money. School is about educating so that you can prepare those students to be able to join us on the opposite side of childhood so that they can participate. But we can't do it if they can't do it successfully if you remove SEL, critical and independent thinking, because that's where decision making comes from. And then two, all of that's not on that onus is not only on the school, that is on the parents. I used to teach my children, they would say, I'm hungry. And I was like, okay. And I would just pause. And they was like, well, what are you going to feed me? I don't know. What do you want to eat? You don't come to me with a problem and drop it in my lap like I'm the only one that's going to give the solution. You have to come prepared. Mom, do you know what we're going to eat for dinner tonight? No. Do you have something special in mind? Yes. Pizza would be great. Okay, great. Now I have one option, right? But don't just come to me talking about I want some food. Feed me, Seymour. I'm not doing that. That's just crazy. But that's also independent and critical thinking. We really have to get into that. So for those parents who need the support and help, there is Christina Campos. There is Molly from last week's show. We have a lot of parent advocates, and they have apps. They parent coaching. We have Emily is going to come on. We have a lot of people who are going to who have created things just to support you as a parent, because we do recognize a lot are single parent households. So we do need to provide you with information and resources to be able to get other people who have either been where you are or who understands the terrain and helps you to navigate through it, because that's what it's all about. The advocacy is up to us. It's not up to the child. And listen, my personal opinion only, the SPED kids are falling apart. That this stuff is hitting the SPED kids, the special needs kids, extremely hard. So I'm going to go back to this one point that you made, Phil. When we look for a school, parents, when we look for a school, just because you live there does not mean you have to send your students to that school. They have now opened up in states and in different cities and districts where you get to choose the school for your child to go to. It is now time for you to take a look at the stats. If the numbers are too low for reading and math, if the student to teacher ratio is too high, if there are things about the program or the surrounding area that is not going to be beneficial to your child, don't send them. That's a choice. You get to make a choice. Homeschooling wasn't supposed to survive. I do not believe. Cyber school was not supposed to survive. I don't believe. And now charter schools, where it's only meant to show people, hey, there are other options. And all three of those options are actually taking students away from the public education system, because public education refused to listen and parents said enough is enough. So you can make a decision to say which side of the fence you're going to be on. But at the end of the day, the word of the day is advocacy. And the bottom line is that if you do not advocate for your child, your child will not understand how to advocate for themselves, because what happens is when we don't advocate for them, people get to dump on them all the crap and biases that they have about your child, and they get to put that in their backpack and carry that for the rest of their lives. So I want to be very clear when I say that. People will say, oh, really? That's so extreme. But that's what it is, because trauma exists in all different pockets of the book bag we carry through life. People talk about a cross we carry. This is a book bag. It's a book bag of all of the garbage people feed us and all of the great stuff people feed us. But guess what wins out more? The garbage, because it's more of that than it is of the good. So be mindful of what we're assigning to our children and our students as we move through this, and understand that if you teach them how to advocate, they will learn how to advocate for themselves. And then when it's your turn, they will advocate for you. So as we go ahead and wrap up, I'm going to go ahead and give each of you an opportunity to share your final thoughts and let people know where to find you, who you're looking to help, and how you want to support. And please talk about Helpopedia, Phil, because I think a lot of parents and families need to know that there is help out there for them. And I want to make sure that they're directed towards you for that reason. So thank you very much. And yes, thank you, Edward and Christine and Sendal and some other people Abraham and a few other people who have been watching. We do appreciate your time. So right now we'll go ahead and we'll say, Phil, you're up first.
Thank you, Tabitha. And Wonderful event today. Thank you, Kristen, for providing the teacher insights that you have. It's wonderful to get those for parents and administrators. And so my name is Phil Vitrano. I'm an independent college and career coach. I started with my co-founder, Laura Lynn Mears, who's head Steeros. We started a nonprofit organization called Helpopedia. We see, and Tabitha is on the board, and so we see all the stats. And we know how much parents don't get the necessary support. It's a big responsibility. You may be expecting that you're an expert in all these things because your kid thinks you're an expert in all these things. But if you were to share with them, if I don't know the answer, here's the people that I would go to get those answers or get to the support that I need to accomplish my goals or accomplish our dreams as a family. So parenting is really important, and you need more support than ever because of COVID and isolation and depression and anxiety. These kids are going through incredible peer pressure. They're like zombies in the classroom, and you may not be asking all the right questions to your kids. And so if you surround them with people like us at Helpopedia and or mentors to ask the right questions, you will be unbelievably floored about the growth that they achieve with people who care about them and support them. And so this is what you as an adult, you want to surround yourself with experts. So we at Helpopedia are experts in supporting students, supporting our youth, and providing parent coaching and supporting the community in so many ways. And I hope you've gained that we have creative solutions. There is no canned solutions for everything. Every situation can be different. Personalizing and customizing that solution for that person can make a huge difference. The question is, can you ask for help? Do you want the help? And that's the hardest thing that most people encounter, is that they're not looking for the help. They don't know who to go to. So you can go to Coach Phil and Helpopedia, and we'll help you help yourself and help your child. Thanks.
Awesome. Look at that. I love this, Phil.
Yeah.
All right now. Okay. Kristen.
So I would just say, moving forward, the biggest thing that, hopefully the takeaway today is, like Phil was saying, not having canned services for people. And so that's something that my services really try to lend to. Inclusion Advocates and Allies was created to be able to help parents and students advocate the IEP and 504 process specifically. So parents can hire me to go into meetings with them. I can do file reviews and give recommendations. I can observe students. I can tutor students on how to advocate. I can tutor parents on how to advocate. But in addition to that, my other work is with Christine Jones, as I mentioned before. She and I have co-authored a parent workbook that is called Bridging the Educational Gap for Home and School. And in writing that, it really turned into more than just a book. It has become a movement. It truly is something that we believe strongly in needing to fight for. And both of us have decided to dedicate the rest of our careers towards helping bridge that gap between education, home and school specifically. So we are creating parent classes that we can offer to parents, but also classes that can be offered to corporations that then they can then work with parents to better teach teachers how to work with parents. So we're doing a lot of really good stuff. You can find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me an email. I always welcome new connections and love to get to know people and expand my network. So please reach out if you have questions. Thank you.
Loving that. Loving that. All right, Kristen. Okay, as always, my name is Tabitha Barron, and I am the founder of Keeping Your Kids Safe. Our goals are to make sure your students, your children, actually go home the way you intended them to go home without incident. The goal here is, we know that about 2 students every single day, every single school actually misplaces a student during school dismissal. Just think about it. It's 500 or 900 children to your 1 or 2. Keep that in mind. For more information, please look for me on LinkedIn. Go ahead and check out Keeping Your Kids Safe First. Is KYKSFIRST.com, and drop me a message. Until then, remember always, we're always in the same place, same time, same back channel. We'll see you next week. Words are power. Remember to use them wisely. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate the support and look forward to you visiting us again next week. Same time, same place. Until then, words are power. Please remember to use them wisely. If you have an interest, like to be on our live show, please let us know and send us a direct message.